Nigerian kid was flogged in Singapore, and the Western press referred to them in all kinds of ways. But the Chinese responded and saying, "Who are you to tell us about being barbarians? When our forefathers were wearing silk, just were running around with leaves around their waists." And this is what knowing your history can do for you. There's the thing about preparing for tomorrow. Every generation needs to make its shoulders available for the next generation to stand on, to see tomorrow more clearly. And we think that in understanding our history, we learn what can drive us towards that tomorrow. And very importantly, mentoring. Someone like our special guest today is really a mentor's mentor, because he's seen so much from so many perspectives of our national life that not to be able to learn from someone like him so that we can build a greater next generation would be really, in my view, a sin. So let me get to our special guest, Aremo Segun Osoba. Once you say that, you don't need to say a lot more, but here is an extraordinary veteran journalist. Here is a statesman. Here is a media executive of executives who's literally run some of the most important media companies in our country. Here's a person in public life who has been a state governor. Here is perhaps the Nieman Fellow that we know in journalism. Here's a man who has been at the points that matter in Nigerian history. During the coup in 1966, literally walked into it all, the heart of it, where the Prime Minister's body was found, and so on and so forth. So I am enormously honored to have with us Aremo Segun Osoba. Aremo, you're welcome. We thank God. I'd like to begin very quickly by saying to you that in the late 50s, as Nigeria's independence approached, there was incredible expectation, great hope for this emerging black power. In fact, a professor of economics at Harvard, who was a Japan expert, was quoted to have said that Nigeria had greater prospects than Japan. Today, we're standing 60-something odd years from those days of self-government, and we're looking at where Nigeria is. What, in your opinion, are the reasons for how this gap between promise and performance has developed?
Well, in my younger days in Lagos, the power was supplied from Ijola by ECN. I think it's the Electric Corporation of Nigeria. The power station was at Ijola, and if they are going to be destroyed, a notice will be given that on such dates and such hours, power will be disrupted. Now we lost it because I'll be honest with you. I'll go back to our values. In my younger days, those most respected in the society were professionals. Teachers were highly regarded, highly respected because they were the one imparting education and things to younger ones.
Took a lot to craft constitutional conferences and all of that. Today, one of the big challenges in Nigeria is a discussion of Nigerian federalism. Many people think that it has failed us, it has not worked, it needs to go through a process of restructuring and all of that. Speak to the challenge of federalism in Nigeria, Nigerian politics, and why we have come down to the kind of quality of political class, I may say, that we have today, compared to, the politicians, even with more limitation in formal education in the 50s and 60s, and the kind of service they gave.
A job was waiting for me in Lagos City Council as a building inspector. I was building inspector from 1961 to 1964. A job was always waiting for you. Now we lost it because by the time the military intervened, those core values were disrupted. The failures in my time in school were the ones who became businessmen, who became partners of the military. The respect for professionals, medical doctors, lawyers, teachers, say what not the professionals. To make money, there were those who even first school start dropouts because they were the one who had the connection with the military. The result that effect was that the civil service itself was was mismanaged. Now, to purchase material for ECN to maintain our power, those local businessmen were now cutting corners instead of getting all kinds of materials. And that was where we started derailing. The respect for professional, the respect for those who read medicine, those who read law. You find these days people who read medicine and law are now into event planning because the greatest thing in Nigeria now is overwhelming. And the easiest way to make money is to just buy markets, shining lights and things. And they abandon law. Many some of them abandon medicine. Whereas in those days, to be a doctor, I mean, you are lifted. It's not by money. You get a lot of contentment, and the result is that let me give you another example. In my days, there were no mosquitoes in Lagos. The drainages were well cleaned. We used to do even the Wale system was there, and as a result, basic hygiene. What they are telling us now in the COVID-19 was there in my days, and there was one even Englishman. What he didn't practice, he wrote what they call Evans hygiene in those days. It was part of the books we read. Put it on the drainage and follow it from Europe, for example, those who know Lagos, to almost to Ekpe, to go and buy two. So there was hygiene. So these are the things that we lost, the value of and all those things, and then we fell into when you go from the era of the lives of Abafena, the military came in, and in fairness, the Ragawa assembled the best of Nigerians. Abafena, Joseph Parker, Nauro, Medical Briggs, the foreign minister from the people from the north who are in the cabinet, Aminu Kanu, in the cabinet of Gawal, were high-class, experienced, tested administrators able to manage the civil war successfully. If we had carried on at that level, frankly speaking, well, up to the time of Shagari, the caliber of those who became governors, Adekunle Ajasin, Bolaige, Jakonde, the late Goni who just died in Borno, Ambrose Ali, those who became governor in the Second Republic were also seasoned politicians. Again, I would say the coming of Shagari, they started well. The devaluation of standard came in. I would say that up to the time that we had the 1992 class, I must tell you, the best that had happened to Nigeria under the military was the two-party system, the NRC and the SDP, which was a little to the left and a little to the right. We were to the left, SDP, and the NRC was to the right. Perhaps one of the best that we have had recently, because younger men may not know the history of up to Tafawa Balewa, they may know a little bit of 1992. I'll give you an example. There were so many seasoned permanent secretary. Odige Oyegu, one of the youngest to become permanent secretary, went to University of Ibadan. Ezife, the governor of former permanent secretary, Shaba Lafiaji was general manager, Basita Sugar Factory before becoming governor. I had managed 3 major newspapers in Nigeria, the Herald, the Sketch, and the Daily Times. The caliber of those of us who became governor then were people, professional colleagues. And the debate at the Council of State was robust. That was the class of 1992. It was still okay. By 1999, I would say the caliber of those who became governors too was still okay. But when you look at 1999 class, you see the like of Ogbon Gata, the likes of Ade Falati from Undo, late Olumide.
We can obviously
1999, Bola Tinubu, Odi Adebayo. I can go on giving you examples of people who had experience, but where we failed was by the time we were going to transfer briefcase carrier, became governors. You are happy, Prof. Yeah.
Anyway, I want to go back a little. You are a freedom fighter in many ways. I was privileged to somehow be in the trenches with the likes of you in 1993, the June 12 struggle. Tell us a little bit about that struggle, and tell us if you think there's still an appetite for struggle to make for good order and a better society today in Nigeria. Why do you think we've traveled the course that we've traveled in these years? No, okay. Do you think that we've lost the appetite for struggle for better society? Like those of us who sacrificed so much back in the 90s to ensure that the right thing was done. Is it that we don't have that appetite anymore in the society? What has happened?
What happened was this. Unfortunately, the likes of you, I'll start with you. You people distort history. When they talk of the struggle, the only body people talk about mostly is Nadeko. It is most unfortunate. There was the Nadeko was the arrowhead, no doubt about that. Most visible, most recognized. The concerned professionals, high-class professionals, and you are meeting regularly. You are as harassed as any of us in Nadeko. You use your intellect. You spend your money. You are meeting regularly. I remember you are living in Dolphin then, and our regular meetings in Dolphin. You are taking adverts in all major newspapers and making profession. The likes of Super Ebimo, late SN, Super had his own group. After one who died recently, had his own Istamade group. Barabe Musa broke away from Nadeko and was doing his own struggle in the north. But the unfortunate thing is that all of you that were involved, unfortunately, unfortunately, many of you didn't come into politics. And then a lot of those who didn't even know what the whole thing was all about became beneficiary of the return to civilian rule in 1990. That was one major mistake. You were all professionals, executives of multinational companies, highly successful, intellectually sound. I don't know if any of you ever contested any election until you came to the president. Tactical error, a big tactical. I was a journalist. I've been a journalist all my life. When he saw the caliber of people came to Abeokuta, was it fair to say you are going to become? I said, God forbid. But it's people like you. If people like you in America, people move from the academia and move to governance, go to White House, go back. The Bible, he was the one who survived my postgraduate course in Harvard. He was in White House. He would go, work with the president and go back to Harvard. We need that kind of thing.
Well, many of us thought that we had done our duty as citizens, and we thought politicians could then now move on. But obviously, we were It was a tactical error. We accept. In American system, it's called the oscillation of elites. I had a professor who then moved to be an assistant secretary of state under Reagan, I think. Then moved to Wall Street from there and came back to the university. So the Americans tend to have that, but our system hasn't done well, and I think learning that lesson is important. Yeah, but let's just move on quickly from that area. I have 3 co-hosts, by the way, younger people who will take you on in the next 20 minutes and ask you more direct questions from the perspective of their generation. As we move to Zoom, Lemachi Chris Asoluka, Emmanuel Adelagu, and my daughter who is in the US will join to interview you. But before that, a few more questions. Let me go to the social realm. There was a musical that was done not too long ago by a lawyer. It was titled Kakadu. The musical was based on the central place of nightlife in Lagos, Kakadu being the key hotspot, to describe Lagos before the war, how people then had to leave to go home in the East, for example, during the Civil War, the things that happened to them and how they came back. Describe for us how important social life was in our society in blending and making for the fun, the conviviality, and the strength of urban areas like Lagos.
You see, unfortunately, it's part of our culture that we lost. In my younger days, I can tell you, whoever was who that came to Lagos who asked for Segun Osoba. I was a big player in the social life of Lagos. The likes of Murtala Mohammed. They come to my house for parties, and those are the days when Kakadu was not the center of activity. You see, we used to start with Bobby Benson's Kabambamu Ikurudu Road on Fridays. Later, before then, we go to the Friday at Ambassador Hotel in Yaba. And it was then that you sing Bobo Boswe. And then this nigga said, sweet banana, sweet banana, sweet banana, sweet banana, sweet banana, sweet. Chicago was then in Idioro. Kakadu was started with Fela. When Fela came back from England, he used to rent equipment on Sundays and play all those songs. But then Sundays was Sunday job with Gerardo Pino at Sule Nightclub.
Nightclub, yes.
I was very active as a journalist. I had to mix with the best of society, the worst of society. Life was good, even during the Civil War. When there was coffee, when we go to the nightclub and the coffee store, we take that in the morning. And it never was good in those days. If you get, if you have too much to drink, you don't leave your car the Sunday evening and take your car. Yes. It will be that. Yeah. We lost that too because Lagos, the social life was where we meet again, exchange feelings, exchange views. You know, we were one family.
I'd like to tell a story about Fela and how he was supposed to be passed away a few months ago. We would all go to Fela, and the IG of police will be there after the police raided him a few days before. And, you know, this was considered, you know, what Lagos was. And that was very important in your career as a journalist. You've been at some major historical junctures for our country. The coup of '66. Talk a little bit about some of those experiences and perhaps how, you know, facilitated your having a better understanding of some of the things that happened in Nigerian history.
A good journalist, a good people. You must be everywhere, and you have to know people at all levels. It helps. People talk too much about Afabale. There are other big stories. Take, for example, Abraham Sugarban, the young man, my timer, who was the Minister of Internal Affairs from Kano. Just physically took him and threw him across the border to Chad or the J Republic. We picked the story up. It was a major story. Even as chief executive, I was still running as a reporter. Then, for example, the body of
Ibrahim Taiwo, yeah.
We had to search for it and we found it on the way to Offa. There were other big stories. I mean, take, for example, the arrest of Dimka. I was by accident in Enugu to make consequence of the governor when the message came that Dimka had been. And fortunately, Kafaru Tinubu was commissioner of police in Enugu. And I jumped on the convoy of the governor, drove right inside the headquarters of the police in Enugu. And Kafaru Tinubu, I said, we are here into where Dimka was. You have to be against streetwise and sharp. And I just sat down there. Nobody would notice I was inside the room. And everything that Dimka said about his movement and everything, I cried on. So I have the first-hand knowledge.
Put them in context. Sukabuka Dimka led the coup that was aborted, the abortive coup that led to the death of the head of state, Murtala Mohammed. And after the coup, he escaped along with other coup plots. Story that we have prepared to hear, some may not be familiar, is that the coup of 1966, when people were looking for the prime minister and the minister of finance and co, Aremo was critical in discovering where the body was. I think just to put it in context for them to understand what you are speaking to. So please go ahead.
So Dimka staged the coup that killed Murtala. Tony was talkative. As I left the room, I went back to Africa. I started interviewing people, and I was telling story. When I go back to Glory, for 2 weeks, I was writing different aspects of the story, and that shut up the general international story. I'm not giving this as an example based on there are many other exclusive stories. Take, for example, today, Azikiwe, during the Civil War, was with Biafra. Then he went out and went to Europe. Then the then president of Liberia, Togban, who is a close friend of Azikiwe, organized that, well, Azikiwe should meet with Gawan, there are Gawan in Liberia,
Monrovia,
Europe, and KLM. And KLM made an emergency stop in Lagos. Again, I was just coming home on that Sunday morning from a nightclub when my telephone rang. Again, I was one of the only reporter in Lagos in my days who had the telephone in the house, 4300. When the telephone rang that Azikiwe called by one of the hostesses, one of the girls in the airport. I ran straight, picked Peter Obe straight to the airport, and got the picture of Azikiwe. And then Gawan Hadi was there, said the shining moment during the Civil War and the beginning to discussion on the rapprochement between the Biafra and Nigeria. I can keep telling you of so many exclusive stories that I come up with. As a reporter, one is very outgoing. As much as I'm outgoing, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I've never touched wine or alcohol in my life, so I'm always level-headed, even when I'm amongst my friends. I mean, a social gathering. So that I can gather plenty of information and store them in my head.
But you know, another point about what has changed in our society, federal police and the head of the Nigerian Security Organization.
I've lost the voice. Hello?
I used to go with them.
I lost you are talking of MDC. I lost contact.
I would be there.
I lost your voice at the point you started with MDC.
Oh.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yes, and now we'll go to see Bella will be enshrined, and MDC would join. And elites in Nigeria, despite of their different locations, disagreements, they have convergent points, and they talk about Nigeria's issues. And the Kaduna Mafia,
and when they saw a problem, they would call some of their friends in Lagos and they would resolve these things. Nigeria doesn't seem to quite function like that anymore. There are these sharp divisions. An American called Robert Kaplan wrote a book about 21 years or so ago. It was titled The Coming Anarchy, in which he talked about ethnic cleavages, religious cleavages, economic cleavages, and how they are converging in a way that could drive West Africa down into anarchy. And we begin to see his predictions today in the violence that is all over the place in Nigeria. What happened to that conviviality amongst varied elites? I mean, imagine MD Yusuf and Fela, after his great philosophy, denouncing the regime, sitting down with these film producers, Stan Fefori, with this undergraduate like myself, all of us just chatting. Why do we not have those kinds of things anymore?
It's part of the disconnect. But one of my best friends in class, the two of them were Igbos, late Eddie and Waziam. We lived together during the school days, and when we left school, we rented a flat together for a long time. Yeah, he's the brother of Bishop. I didn't look at him as him. Clement Ugoji is now in Houston.
By the way, it was my cousin.
At that time, we didn't look at ourselves as whether Igbo or Yoruba. Then, look, we were talking about MDC. During the Federal government, one of my closest friends was late Alhaji Maitama Sule. If you see the picture of me, Maitama Sule and myself used to run around clubs in Lagos. Just as you were talking about MDC. MDC was then pioneer security chief in Nigeria. He was then what they call head of E branch. The police E branch was arrested me in between because it's part of the for daring to quote when I still landed in Lagos, for daring to quote my discussion with Kawan in the paper. Says when, as you said, we had connection, but these days there is suspicion. If you display your connection with your friends in the north, they say, "Oh, you stole out."
Our time in this part of it is moving very quickly, and the number of questions from those who are participating, I will make it more quick by saying they want you to reflect on speak to how we can overcome these problems from your experience. We've cited all these things that have gone wrong. What could we do differently? deal with the issue of federalism, for example, and so on?
Well, I've always preached that what you spoke about, the Kaduna Mafia, linking up with those of us in the South, I was a mafia of a country that called us Lagos Ibadan Press Axis. And then they were referring to me as MT3 times, but it's as editor-in-chief of Tribune, and Peter Ajayi was then my director of Sketch. Those three major newspapers were highly influential. They called me and my colleagues the Lagos Ibadan Axis, that were the one causing problem in Nigeria. But I will not call us the three. We need to restore that high-level contact. I'll give you an example. During the struggle, Bola Ige was engaging the likes of Adamu Chiroma, SB Awoniyi from the north, and all of them in discussions. The problem we have now is that somehow both sides are getting too rigid, pulling away from each other. Whether we like it or not, whichever way we are still going to sit at the table to decide what regional way, if we are going to go, if it's still possible to have true federalism, we will still have to discuss. Unfortunately, when you tell some of our people that, well, let's have some contacts, they take you as a sellout. And that is most of the Czechs and Slovak, after so many problems, sat down at the table and decided to negotiate and go their ways. The USSR under Gorbachev went through the People's Congress, and perestroika is the same meaning as the structuring. So we are not referring to the structure. Perestroika was done through the People's Congress, and everybody went their way. Ukraine, Georgia, everybody, and Russia remained as Russia. The USSR that I thought, USSR, I got to Russia only to find that there were Catholic churches. I didn't know. I was being want to think that communism was a religion. So you see, look at UK. UK, the practices itself as United Kingdom. United today is practicing federalism. The First Minister in Scotland does not agree with Boris Johnson over this COVID-19. Boris Johnson will decide to relax, and the First Minister in Scotland will go his own way. The West, in Wales, in Cardiff will go their way. Day by day, Westminster is devolving so far United Kingdom. I said so at Professor Wable's book. I said I was brainwashed by my British teachers that Britain was to rule. I was meant to say rule Britannia. Britannia ruled that way. A Britain never shall be at this place. I didn't know that Britain was made up of so many community within the United Kingdom. So if you are United Kingdom after centuries are now practicing federalism, what makes us think that we are going to be different? Yugoslavia, Marshal Tito was a hero, respected all over the world, but we didn't know he was holding Yugoslavia by iron hand. When we want to think, I'm going to go Yugoslavia. The signals are there.
Everything will reach you. Aremo, we have to round up this phase right now, but we are continuing. So we'll just give a couple of minutes and we'll continue straight on Zoom. In the intervening couple of minutes, as we're switching fully to Zoom, which we've been on, we'll have some information about CVL and about the 3 young people who will give you wahala. Yes, so. Right. Okay. Thank you. So all of us on IG Live, it continues on Zoom. But thank you for joining us on this platform. Sorry we didn't engage more directly for those of you who had questions, but I got some of your questions and tried to transmit some of them. But you can further deepen on those questions as we go on Zoom for the next hour. Younger co-hosts of mine, I've got Lemachi Chris Asoluka here in Lagos, and we've got Mandela Mandela, as we call him, here in Lagos too. But we will take the first question as we return in a minute from Claire, who is out in the United States. So, As we say on Patito's Gang, we'll be right back.
We are back, and Aremo Segun Osoba has been giving us a remarkable account of his personal touch with Nigerian history. Of the questioning, I will be essentially moderating for the next hour or so. I've got, as I said earlier, Claire Utomi, who is sitting out in the US. Claire is an undergraduate at Wharton, UPenn. I have got here in Lagos, Lemachi Chris Asoluka, who is a young lawyer in UBA. And I've got Emmanuel Adelagun, who is a CVL officer, a program officer. So welcome. And Claire, let me invite you to ask Aremo a question. Claire's 19 years old, so her generation has many questions to ask sometime. And I told him I would leave Claire.
Thank you very much. And thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. I think my first question, with recent events, actually, within the last week, we had a governor in Nigeria, I think Oyo State to be precise. He was talking to the students who had complained, obviously, that schools have been shut, they're not getting their education. What are you guys doing about it? To come here. And obviously, over the years, it's become from being servants of the people to positioning themselves above them. And so I think my biggest question right here is, what do you think has been the biggest change in the system itself that has allowed what you may have referred to as failures to become governors, to become our leaders? How has the system itself changed to allow those kinds of people to have political seats?
Well, I will tell you that part of the problem that I have no details of the reference of the statement that you are referring to. What I know has happened is that anybody becoming a governor should have been a team player. At the price of being immodest, as a journalist, the greatest vendor, if you produce the best newspaper in the world, if the vendors don't get it to the doors in my days, not now that you can read e-vending, read papers online, papers have to be delivered physically to the doors, or you be related with the vendors. They were semi-literate, that they were highly cerebral, and they can tell you which paper is rich that day. So I've learned my lesson to work as a team. So the government must, as you said, they are the king. You don't talk to them anyhow. You have to warm your heart to them, to let them know that you do care. And a government must what? I do my own security testing by contacting my leader in different areas and ask them, what are the people thinking? So I agree with you. You don't talk down your voters. You don't talk down your citizens.
I think such an point you made. Something that someone was talking to me about yesterday is that there's currently a disconnect between leaders at the top and the people. You said that you literally reach out to someone you have on ground in that area, and I think that's something that's missing nowadays.
Okay, Aremo, just before you take that in, I'll invite Lemani to ask you a question, and then you can take this.
Hello?
Yeah,
hello?
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir.
How are you?
Thank you for joining us. Fine, thank you, sir. So the question Claire asked was very relevant, and it was part of what I was thinking. But also, I wanted to know the major differences in your two tenures as governor of Ogun. So I want to, first of all, if there's anything came back now, how you got into power the two times, the differences, obviously, leadership-wise, the system of government that was being operated during the system, during your two tenures. So I just want to know the major differences between being a governor in 92 to 93 and your under democratic system in 1999. Just want to know the major differences in your tenures as governor and the leadership style.
There was no difference, because I will tell you, during my first coming 1992 to 1993, the caliber as a retired permanent secretary, professionals in different fields, we were able to stand and face the Babangida at Council of States and speak our mind forcefully. Same thing in 1999 to 2003. President Obasanjo dare not joke with us, but the caliber of those of us who were in the Council of States from Akwa Ibom, those of us from Southwest, we will take a position, and across time, Obong and Co will follow. So that it depends on the caliber and your experience of life, and Obasanjo and I will be in the same age bracket from what he claims. So, and I've been a reporter. I had interviewed and Co. So, as a governor, you must not be intimidated. Two, I can tell you, I'm sorry to say, lack of administrative experience is part of the problem we're having with situation on ground. Now, I don't want to criticize any government. I never went to government with any special assistant, any aid. I did 1992, 93, 1999 to 2003. I worked with the civil servants who were level civil servants, a state that produced the likes of labor, tested Nigerian technocrats, internationally respected technocrats. So you can imagine the civil service was the bedrock of my administration. I did not handpick my friends to be commissioners. I allowed the leaders in each area to nominate those to be appointed commissioners. I then assigned my commissioner for finance in my last dispensation, Samuel Dojaye, was an accountant, a fellow of the Institute of Accountants in Nigeria, and then educated and very efficient. So, but today you find special assistant, special assistant, this, that, a retinue of aid. There is too much wastage in government. There is too much expenditure on running government. My own philosophy is this: whatever I cannot afford in my private life, whatever I cannot afford, I did not get used to it when I was in government. Newspaper. See, today, at the age of 81, I drive myself around. Well, with COVID-19, I can tell you, I'm doing self-distancing even in my own house. I've sent away retinue of police and things. I now make my bed myself. I don't want any. I clean my sink. I clean my toilet myself. Nobody comes to my room now. All this I can do because I was in scouting. I was in Red Cross when I was in school. I was efficient. I don't know why in their bags. I never traveled anywhere with a single aid throughout the period I was governor. So there's no difference. It all depends on the individual. And I will say, whoever will run this country must first of all be able to discipline himself, must be able to be frugal in his own private life, to be able to run an efficient country.
Thank you, Ayamo. Just before we go to Mandela, I think a very pertinent point that you have raised that I would like for us to deepen conversation around, which is that a lot of people who go into public office today, whether they are governors or presidents, believe that the public service is not capable of implementing their policies and ideas. So they bring an alternative to just give people who have nothing else to do jobs. Part of it is to have, quote unquote, those they think can implement for them, whereas they don't trust the civil service. And then you have these literal civil wars inside government between the appointees and the civil servants, and the civil servants finding ways of sabotaging them, all adding to making governance really of this thing. I think in reflecting, after Mandela has asked his question, it would be good to get your perspective on what to do about this thing. You referred to Chief similar neighbors of this world. The civil service was once so thorough and so complete. We have cases of permanent secretaries who stopped ministers from the state back in Balewa's time, who nearly lost his job. And he had a breakdown on the way and used a mechanic and submitted the report, the receipt for refund. And the PAMSEC saw that the car was used on a Saturday and queried it. And he was going to be removed as a minister. Because he was so close to Balewa had to beg PAMSEC, can they demote him, send him to a smaller ministry as punishment. That does not happen today. Nobody can even imagine that happening today. So those are things I probably would like you to reflect on. But let Mandela come in and ask his question.
Thank you very much. You practice journalism, sir. And I have a very, like all them, I get very bitter. And it's obvious that someone like myself and Claire will actually be oblivious to press intimidation in our current democratic dispensation. Could you please share the military regime, what you have now, and the way forward? Thank you.
Well, anybody is going to go into the profession of journalism for intimidation, harassment by government, by even those that are covering their students. I can tell you, in my younger days, we were going to cover drug peddling. I was actually Lagos weekend in Lagos. Again, that was a gang. Now, government intimidation is all over the world. Look at Trump. The First Amendment to the American Constitution, First Amendment was freedom of expression, freedom of the press. Trump decided to ban CNN from the White House. I cannot imagine that an American president would dare do that kind of intimidation. I agree that CNN, I watch CNN. CNN is heavily anti, what the American would call anti-Trump. Agreed. But then Trump had no power to do what he did, and they went to court. There will always be intimidation, oppression, but it is we that must continue to fight. Freedom doesn't come easy. It doesn't come on the platter of good. In Nigeria, during Abacha era, the likes of Fair Magazine, Guardian, Punch, even in the military. I remember the cell that Oyenusi, you know him, was a notorious robber. I like to say myself, Wanda Gawan, who is a friend of all of us, who are locked up in Oyenusi's cell. It will always and to continue to fight. Media oppression will continue to eternity, even when we are gone. But I believe that over time, I can say that even in Nigeria in Africa, we are one of the. It's because we were all ready to fight and win the freedom that we have today.
Yeah, that's a very strong point. I think that I didn't even realize that you were self of his famous robberies by body. I didn't realize that you were his cellmate. But I really, could you go back to that point, government and those that bring a government into government and the problems we're having beyond even costs with the fight inside of government between the appointees and now everybody wants to be appointed something, and they just constitute a disruption in governance.
Again, I would say there's nothing actually wrong in bringing technocrats into governance. I'll give you an example of Professor Joseph Nye, renowned international political scientist all over the world. He's always in and out of White House. Now, you see, he in fact gains a lot of experience to Nigerians, and you want to give job to your friends. I'll give you an example. When I was governor, and then we have to appoint caretaker committee for local council, and I believe that we have to get governance right at local level. I appointed Chief Otuba Oluwadebanjo, who was a minister committee for Odobolu, his local government. He had retired to Odobolu, but he's a man of high experience, and I put him there. And take, for example, Kola Animashan, my colleague, a diplomat, a journalist. I met him in the book club. I think Badejo, who had been ICANN president. There's nothing wrong in bringing technocrats, expose people. If you're not government into sharing among your friends that I disagree with, there are contributions that people with high knowledge, civil service in Nigeria, like Pat said, civil service was an institution. Akindele, who was there, Pap said, communication, objected to Murtala Mohammed, single-handedly awarded the contract for Nigeria telecommunication to ITT. And it's true this. We have to go back and build the civil service, the kind of civil service I dealt with in my time, who are competent. I'll give an example of a man, Wale Bajomo, an engineer, civil servant. He energized virtually hundreds of villages, connected them to, he will buy cables from wire and cable in Ibadan. He will buy the concrete post, string it, and we're able to electrify. So that's the caliber of civil servant that we should have. My advice is we should go back, strengthen the civil service. You see, in America today, what is keeping America going is the system, institution. We have to build institution. Look at the way, Dr. Fauci will still come up, state his mind. The man is 79. Look at the Robert Redfield, the director of Center for Disease Control in America. He will state his mind. But Trump will come and say, we want to bulldoze his way. So we have to go back, but create institutions. I will say that the whole thing is destroyed. When you look at the judiciary, I would like to J.C. Taylor, Dadi Oyama, Udo Ujoma, there were judges that were on the bench. The likes of Elias, they are gone. Today, you have conflicting, silly pronouncement by judges. I must confess. Look at what is happening in America. I don't believe in LGBT, gay, all these things. They went against judgment against Trump. Look at the judgment they are giving to men. Now, Obamacare is not before them. I'm sure they're going to. So we need to build the institution part. We need to revamp our civil service.
Just before Claire comes back, Professor Anthony Kila would like to ask a question. Perhaps we can take Professor Kila.
Okay, I'm there. Yeah, I'm there, sir. Good afternoon to you. Thank you very much, CVL. Thank you, Professor Utomi, for putting things together. More than ever, we need forums like this. And a big me will know that I am fixated with the idea that perhaps the biggest evil of this country is the role or non-role of the elites, the abdication of the power of the middle ground, of the professional and the elites in this country. Now, I want to tie it to your own world, which is media, information, and politics. The new crop, the new generation of journalists have not been able to live up to that golden era in which, one dreamt to be a Segun Osoba, a Coup, even the late Dele Diwa, in which the idea that with the pen you could make something happen, thought that it matters a lot, that or at least shake, that a journalist can make a minister be removed. Because part of the consequence of that, President Utomi was saying earlier on, everybody wants to be nominated because biggest show in town is in politics. It's not about being an economist, doctor, and engineer. So that is an issue that needs to be addressed. The other issue that worries there, when we talk about the weakness of the elites, this idea that a profession that is meant to report and is free of influence or control of the dominant power cannot protect itself. A lot of journalists today are my students and my former students. So I have a platform to interact with them. And one of the biggest issues they have to do with that of survival. The economy is back to be idealistic or be inspired when they have no sure salary coming into their account directly for doing their job. It's a big problem. Now, nobody's going to solve it by giving money to publishers, but I think somehow we have to develop the mentality of forcing publishers to pay the right due. Or at least starvation can lead to pauperization, which then opens up journalism to be bought and controlled. I want your view on those considerations, sir.
Those are killer questions. You have given me killer punches. I've talked about the lead. Yeah, you see, unfortunately, I blame part. While in the forefront of the struggle for the restoration of the current democracy that we're enjoying, they spend their intellect, their time, their money to fight for the restoration of democracy. But at the time of that time, not now going for governorship of data 29 years after. No, 1999 to now. 80 years after.
You are close to it.
Seriously, he was the leader. But I said it at the field today. The president of Nigerian Federalism as democracy. But there are greater than Jacobs here. But Utomi is one. He was the leader of the concerned professional. Highly placed, experienced young people who have ideas. They should have not been modest. Because my family was not put in rural area. So the elite should go into politics. I will serve in your professional field. You say it's dirty. As dirty as politics may be, it's coming. It's our country. So the elite, they didn't go to politics. We ended up having leftovers to say that he had HSC, he had SUSAT. Look, when I was in school, I went to the we knew ourselves. All the secondary school people, we knew ourselves. Why should we be struggling when the minimum today for anybody in Nigeria should be a graduate? So the elite, I agree with you on that. As for the press, yes, unfortunately, the destruction of the middle class, which came in during the military era, when, as I said earlier, the military started patronizing those who didn't even make SUSAT, and they became the richest, the biggest in Nigeria before the era of Yahoo. They got contracts, inflator constructed the respect of professional. In my days as a reporter, our salary was not big, they were respected. For example, like what Pat is saying, we used to roam around nightclubs. I didn't have to pay, but then my salary was not big, but it was regular. Secondly, in those days, every weekend, those of you that are good, and if you do a good story, Allah just will give you extra, what they call bonus. Unfortunately, Killer, I'm sorry to say, today, many publishers are not paying many of our colleagues. The result is that a lot of people resort now to all kinds of things to make ends meet. It's unfortunate when I see what is going on. Both sides, the professionals themselves is part of being more educated than those of us in my time. Because in my time, there was nothing like mass communication. The British system they have in UK. You were trained on the job. I was only lucky that I had a stint in University of Lagos under IPI. I had a stint in Commonwealth President in Oxford University. I had a stint at Indiana University. Then I had a training in Harvard as a Neiman Fellow. Highly educated. You cannot believe it. Ordinary to Google something for education, they won't do it. Some people came to interview me one day and I was talking about Chairman Mao. By the time they spelled Mao Zedong, I don't hit my head on it. They didn't even know who is Mao Zedong. Chairman Mao was the one who led education. They are not as dedicated as we are. They are not as focused as we are. They are not, they didn't have the pride of the profession. They are in it for whatever they can get. I'm sorry. You see, I can only give my own example. Bolaji Johnson, late Bolaji Johnson was my house captain in Methodist Boys High School. Rashid Benamosi was my classmate in Methodist Boys High School. Rashid was the cabinet of Bolaji Johnson in Victoria Island. Because the injunction in Judiciary is that you must not have block and must not open yourself to being influenced by government, I refused to apply for a land in VI under Johnson, which I would have had with my classmate Rashid Benamosi. But today, Johnny will take it. So these are part of the problem killer that we are facing. It's both sides. Publishers that are not paying their workers, and then you now open the workers to go and make their ends meet by being tempted into office until leadership became governor. He couldn't believe it. I was then already managing director of Daily Times. So you see, I'm sorry to say the blame is on the two sides, not just.
Well, I agree, Daremo. Very true indeed. I'd like to take another question before I go to Claire, actually. Mr. Deli Ajufo is raising his hand. Can we admit, are you on mute and then ask the question?
Yeah.
Good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. Brother Segun, I think of all the people participating today, I'm nearer your age. When you mentioned Bill Friday, it brought back memories because I shared an apartment with Bill Friday. I was making his pepper soup in the 60s when he used to play at Ambassador Hotel in Yaba. Yeah. You understand? So I'm glad somebody remembers it. However, my concern is about the future of our society. When we were growing up, you were already in Daily Times. We had people like Peter Pan. We had Daily. We had others like them, and lately, during the early 80s, we had Stanley McCabe, the rest of them. Today, most media men want to be associated with government in power. They attend functions in power. It never happened in your days, neither did it happen in the days of Peter Pan. So the government feared the media in there. It's not like that anymore. So then the next thing is the judiciary. When I lived at Olona District in the 50s and 60s, we had a judge of the High Court. He never went out. You hardly saw him. He was feared. We call him Babo. So these three arms of our society, the judiciary, the media, and of course we have the unions. I'm sure you remember what happened in the Students' Union of the 50s when they stopped it. It doesn't happen anymore. I'm not going to take your time. I asked a question later on. Can we get back to those days? If we went back to the Abuja Accord to give individual states or regions autonomy for success, we never mentioned about Opera's Industrial Revolution that actually took on the world. It was ranked one of the most developing economies in the world in the 50s and 60s. I'm sure you remember that. So if we stop mine who are in the media, and I'm sure part of my brother is in the media as well, but they won't degenerate to such a level. What we call brown media men, it will help us a long way. Today, the judiciary is back, and I hope I'm speaking the minds of a lot of people. I think I'll stop there and give other people a chance to talk. Thank you.
Referring to magistrate,
that's right. He lived on Olona District then.
As I said, in those days, judges don't mix. They were feared. You don't even get to see them. You are right. The value system is what first of all needs to be restored. And when you talk about bullying, of course, whether we like it or not, we cannot be different in Nigeria. It may be different approaches to it. So many nations coming together. You cannot, like I give an example of Yugoslavia and Russia. You can't hold us down together by force. Britain today, European Union, I can predict there will be another referendum and Scotland will go his way, whether they like it or not. Look at Ireland.
Absolutely.
The Irish want to be united, not the Ireland want to unite with Ireland. So many people have been killed. That's an advanced country. You cannot suppress nations. I'm proud to say that I'm an United Kingdom before 1914. Yes, we're not part of Nigeria. We were forced into Nigeria. The guys, we had our own United Kingdom. Where the police, my father was in it. The government, and there was efficiency. There was efficiency in Egba, efficiency in Lagos. Until we go back, whether we like it or not, it's a matter of time. We are just postponing our tribe. In your days, you are now related. When we are about out there, we don't go there to look at before we hold his trumpet, and where we will clap when he said, move his head up and down. We enjoyed ourselves. We had high quality life. So we have to go back, whether Nigeria likes it or not, one way or the other. The earlier we start talking and negotiate a brand new system, when you make some people secondary citizens, even when they are to go to university, you're already giving some people in some parts of this country, they don't know if they think quota system gives them advantage, you lower the standard for them. Because from, take for example, Delta, and they don't, who have always had high cut-off marks, you already tell them that educationally they are secondary. It is not good, and then you say federal character. Being competent is no more the issue. So I agree with you. We have to go back, whether negotiated, and I pray we negotiate it, that we don't go Ethiopia. In the days of Haile Selassie, Addis Ababa was the hub of economy, export-free zone. Ethiopia was a great country, but today, where is Eritrea? Eritrea has gone its own way. How can we stop it? We can never stop it. Either regional, through federalism, each of us developing at our own pace and uniting at a point as a country, like Canada. The English and the French in Canada are going their way. Australia is a regional system. Australia is a big country, it's a regional system. In Washington, told of Trump that you cannot in national, you are then went ahead to go and name the major street in front of the White House as Black Lives Matter Street, and painted the road. You can look at the president in the face. Look at the chief of police in Houston. He told Trump some weeks ago to go and shut up. So we have to go back.
Thank you, Arimo. We'll go back to the US and take Claire on our next question.
Okay. So
over
the year, there's this perception, or there's this saying in the comedy circle, that Nigerian comedians can never be out of work because there's always something to joke about, always something to use to mask the pain. But I've come to realize, I think, to mask our pain, part of the reason that comedians will always have work is that currently we view the system itself as a joke. We have senators in the Senate singing. We have, in fact, we've seen within the last 2-3 years fights in the Senate, and even as you mentioned, in the journalistic sphere, we have publishers not doing their work in terms of the things that would enable journalists to do their work appropriately. They're not doing that, and that's why we have so many news media outlets representing Nigeria online, talking about jokes, talking about, oh my goodness, how very sadly recently. And the chief of police was there, stood there, and they were questioning him and asked him, are you a singer? And absurd questions. And he said, oh, yeah, sing for us. And this video has gone viral all over the internet. Somebody that they arrested in Abuja for, I think it was on the internet singing. And it's a form of comedy. Journalistic media or just reported media in Nigeria everything has turned into a comedy, either because we want to lighten our pain or just because it's. So my question is, how do we take the systems that are currently in place that view everything as a joke? How do we convert our mindset really and take it back to being serious? There are a few elites, even my age. I was talking to somebody yesterday, 19, myself too, and he's been convinced since he was 17 that he will enter politics to make a difference. But there are many things in place to avoid letting people who actually have the capability of solving the problem be in those positions. How do we get the entire system to start viewing things seriously, to be able to allow those people to get into power?
You're right. We have to start from the grassroots. The change must come from local government. At the local level, how can you have a chairman who is not educated enough to read the budget, to translate the budget? We have 73 people now claiming to be chairman of councils. We have passed that stage. The reform must start. Look at the lady in the mayor in Atlanta. But she will come on the day they kill Richard Brooks. She immediately asked for the resignation of the chief of police. That you cannot the structure from there. Now you are talking about that police. Yes, the policing system also has to be local. How come a kidnapper like Evans was able to stay in first tag, keep a high local policing system? In my days, we knew who was who in every home in Lagos. Today, I'm sorry to say, in the I don't even know my neighbor, even though she's an Egba lady. We have only maybe been twice since we've been living together for about 20 years now. But it's a serious disconnect. The man arrested, and he said, "Can you sing?" And he started using the radio balance. Over, blah, 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 2, 2, 3, 4. Just to me, I watch all this internet thing, and it makes me sad. So, like, I want to go back to where you talk of the caliber of those in our chambers. Again, you see, we get it wrong. I've always been opposed to what they call constituency project. And then you now put billions of naira to each legislator to do borehole, do all kinds of useless, satellite light, or whatever. The legislator is to legislate. It is not there to award contract or to go into executive authority. As a result of which, I traveled one day, Alessandro and I traveled from Wari one day through the southern road from Wari to Port Harcourt and to Owerri and Calabar. That road is not there anymore. Instead of putting money heavily for those major roads, you now spend the money to who don't know that their job is to just Can Pelosi now ask for money to go and do satellite lights in California? I can't understand. So I agree with you that we have to come into politics. I beg you.
Give us
seriously here. You should be involved. Killer, after your stint as a renowned, respected economist, I get your column regularly when you say, come into politics. I left journalism and went to politics. I was not given a chance. I went out of the villages. I know there's no village that I don't know somebody in the Ogun State. All of us are being analytical and going into governance to give our experience practice. Again, we have to go back to regional system, local governance, true federalism.
Okay, but on that point, what would you say to the likes of Professor
Utomi? We're running out of time, Claire.
No, I was talking about you. I was talking. You know, your father is a disappointment. He worked hard. He labored. He spent his money. He risked his life. I was not. And at the right time when he was supposed to come in, he's getting older, but he must not give up. He should have contested the Delta State governorship under the dispensation in 1999 for Kokori. They are from Delta. It's not only Yoruba that Kokori that suffered for years in prison and degrees from Delta. And all those who are supposed to take over in 1999.
Let me give my back. I'll say God wanted it to happen so that I can exist. Maybe I won't exist. 2001.
I believe in God, but you see, you must also take your destiny in your hand.
Okay, we're going to bring in Lemachi, your question.
Yes, sir. Yes, so I just wanted to ask, because I love journalism, and I think journalists have a lot of strength and they have a lot of authority because they're the ones that report to us, and journalism is the first point of contact to information for the to the public. And knowledge is power, being taught in the Nigerian educational curriculum. Because most things about like the war, us transitioning from military government to civilians, military taking it back, transition back to civilian government, it's just a few people who have parents that are into like people who go out of their way to Google stuff and ask older people questions. So just a few people in the generation who really know a lot, or at least who know a considerable amount of history in Nigeria. So what do you think about history not being taught and the effect it has now? Just to tie history in, somebody was asking about the Aburi Accord and the agreement that Gowon supposedly had with Ojukwu before they got back to Nigeria and everything was scattered. So if you have any information on the document would have done, the supposed document would have done like the integration of Nigeria and like taking Nigeria politics for Nigeria as a new country into like the right direction. So yeah. So the two questions: the youths not knowing enough about history, and second question: in Ghana, the Aburi Accord that was agreed with Gowon and Ojukwu. What do you know about the facts of that document, and if that document supposedly was like the savior of democracy, or like?
But history is unfortunate. The greatest mistake we made in life in Nigeria is abandoning the teaching of history. As a young man, I was made to read history even beyond Nigeria. The witch, Manitoba, and everything. I was made to read poems on the British Bridge, London Bridge, and everything. Even so removed from me. So, unfortunately, all the things we are talking about, because we are not teaching history, you don't get to know Awolowo, Azikiwe, Afaba, Sadana, and Co. Because we are not teaching history. In the case of journalism, look at a man like Dakondi. We don't even remember his contribution. He was involved in the State Writers Association, the kill of editor, Jakonde was everything in Tribune. Was the chief executive, the managing director. He was the editorial board. What we now have intellectuals that are now sit at the editorial board. He was the only one I can ignore. So we have to restore history for people like you to learn from what has happened. Again, many of us are also at fault, but you are also at fault. I'm sorry, I'll keep hitting you. You should put pen on paper your role, your involvement in the restoration of democracy in Nigeria. Right. I'm sorry, I was a Lagos boy. He speaks perfect Yoruba. He went to King's College. He grew up in Idumago. I keep telling Ojuku, right, till he died, he didn't write. I've been begging Jeragawa for years. Now he's old. He didn't write. Elijah Conde had a whole room full of books. Same thing with my friend Sunday Awoniyi, a man who was private secretary to Sadano, who knew everything about Nigeria. He died. So again, apart from history, we are not writing. We have to document so that you know about leaders and you know about the history you on how to move forward. Now, as for journalism, again, I'm happy to say that journalism now today, we have highly educated people, and life is now easier. There's no information you want that you cannot Google now. Even in Yoruba, if I want anything, it is just that you young people should rededicate yourself, be active, be serious, and use the facilities available to you. Look at Killer. The sense is coming to me through WhatsApp. I don't want again to know what's going on. So you have facilities available to you. There's e-vending now. You can read out the papers anywhere you are through e-vending. And about your interest, your influence, I want to beg you to please keep it up and get ready to come into politics. You can only, apart from being successful in your area of endeavor, in your professions, come and join us. I'm too old now, 81. I'm able to reinvent Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you, Aremo. I think for the closing question from the panel, we'll go to Mandela. But about writing, I have been very busy. I've been writing. In fact, two or three books recently, and I'm working on another one right now. Maybe I should send you a series of the books.
Your involvement in getting democracy.
Yes.
Historical. From your days in Brooklyn.
Yes. I will write some more. That's a full volume, really. That's true.
You are dead. Exactly. Thank God. Here I see you today.
Okay, Mandela.
Thank you very much, sir. So I'll comment briefly on the Constitution. So I believe the Constitution was designed to actually satisfy the
after the Aburi, yes, Aburi, to go back to the question of Aburi, yes, Aburi was a defining moment. If that had Aburi implemented, it would have been like Canada, a kind of confederation. The French are running their own French Canada Aburi. Nigeria will still remain Nigeria, but with a loose penetration. Thank you.
All right, sir. So talk about the Constitution, 1999 Constitution. So chapter of that Constitution says that, talked about the government obligations, what they should do in terms of security, economics, and all. But if you go to section 6, subsection C, same Constitution, the Judiciary actually said that they don't have the right to talk about that chapter 2, that if any government or any authority doesn't do anything about chapter 2, then nothing can be done about it. So I feel such a statement should be repealed. And I've been talking to some lawyers about this, but they seem not to have anything to do about it. What do you think we can do about that? It means that we can't hold the government accountable if they refuse to do what they are meant to do.
It's not justiciable. They put a clause that those fundamental sections, which I can't fundamental to our development, but they now put a clause that is not justiciable. And that's why the judiciary will not. What we should do is immediately promote a bill in National Assembly to make that the section justiciable and lobby all the state assembly. Once it becomes an amendment to the Constitution, we have to. That's what I've been telling our people. We should start testing the Constitution, test it in a way that will be revived. Our old men now have just gone to court about implementing federal character. We stay too long. That's what. So my answer is that we have to start with National Assembly, get them to review that section, make it justiciable, and then get 2/3 of the state to agree, and that will become an amendment to the Constitution.
Thank you very much. We have to go, but we have one question from Mo Malabu, I believe. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Mo Malabu will take your question, then we'll round up. Just to say, as we're connecting up to Mo, that we have a very strong lineup of people who are following Aremo: Dr. Christopher Kolade, Dr. Michael Omolayole, Elder Umar Ilazo, Professor Anya, Shiva Thombanefo, all these are lined up. We could actually be taking this every week, but might be too much trouble, so it will be every fortnight. And hopefully we'll get from their perspectives, Ambassador Babagaye, on this. So we are looking forward to weeks of engagement on this track. So is Mo Malab ready?
Yes, I'm ready, sir.
Okay, please come.
Thank you for your time, sir. Thank you for your time, Armo. I think each time we talk about politics, violence seems to be the elephant in the room. And for people like yourself who've had the experience, I think sometimes if you can give us concrete example, thoughts on navigating that violence, whether at the polling booth or threats to candidates, and whether you expect it to get worse before it gets better. So that's my question. Thank you.
We are a nation of pretenders. I say we are pretenders because we have modern facilities. If you want to reduce violence, the first thing you do is use available technical facility to conduct our elections. We may not do e-voting, but take for example, if Nigerian banks are using modern facilities, and I want to tell you that Nigerian banks are the most efficient in the whole world. I'm no more in office. I keep accounting abroad. In Nigeria, a couple leaving your account, you are giving a lot instantly. My driver used the car to go and buy petrol. As soon as they are finishing buying the fuel, my last sounds as to how much I spent. Our point of sales in Nigeria is working efficiently to the point that even other people are raising money to people who want to make their money. Now, if we can use that as an example to reduce violence, if we can transmit from every location in Nigeria, satellite, the object of those who are accredited to vote. At the end of the voting, the vote can be less, they cannot be more. Pretend. I say very simple. If Nigerian bank can use point of sales, can use the system that allows you. I don't know why INEC would pretend. Secondly, I say we are pretenders. We claim to be so many millions. Google has a map of everywhere. One day, Atubani Adeba and I are going to go to the airport of the city. So somebody suggested we should take an Okada man to lead us out of the city to the airport road. Along the line, Atubani Adeba is saying we are being stupid. Can't we? Do you have a service on our telephone? We Google the airport, and the Google map navigated us out of the Kano city to the airport. So the whole Nigeria, how come we cannot do sensors via satellite, show the villages in all our areas, and you can immediately guess how many we are. So the answer to violence is to go in terms of e-voting, but in terms of going using digital to manage our electoral process, that will kill violence immediately and corruption.
I want to give you a big clap on that because this is part of what we're talking about. It is not rocket science. We can get people to vote from their bedrooms even and change this process. But the thing is that there are people who profit from the disorder in Nigeria. So the biggest question is state capital.
Go and sell it to Trump first. Sell him voting to them. Trump comes to my home, come and say, "Come on, your friend is on." So even in America, Trump is already of male voting.
Yeah. But we can't thank you enough for these wonderful 2 hours that we have spent in your company. You know, on the history of our country, and we hope that with others of your pedigree and similar coming on, we can pull together enough understanding of this cul-de-sac in which we are currently stuck. We truly, truly do value you, and thank you so very much. Any last word you want to give us as a closing thought before we thank our panelists?
It's been very, very enjoyable, very interesting. I want to thank you for your interest and involvement in the situation, state of the nation of your country. I want to agree with you that don't give up, don't lose hope. I believe in Nigeria. I believe that there's a tomorrow in Nigeria, and I believe that whether we go regional, we have a great country. Nigeria is the only country where this used to tell me that you take a seed that will become a tree of mango. We don't take advantage of that. We have different vegetation. We are so blessed that we can be independent food-wise. And once we are independent like America, towards feeding yourself. So I plead with you that I'm very happy today to be in your midst, and I want to thank Prof. You've already been involved in this thing. Your reward is not in the hands of God. You will gain a lot of reward from the activities of your father, whom I respect a lot, who is still involved and is still looking forward to greater Nigeria. I want to thank all of you for this opportunity that you gave me to listen to me for 2 hours. God bless you. God bless Nigeria.
Man, thank you so very much. And thank you, panelists. Thank you, all the participants everywhere. Look forward to seeing you in a fortnight. Bye-bye.